Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, we are in and back into Top Doc summer mode. We, of course, began this all right at the beginning of summer here, right at in the May area, after returning from Phoenix, Arizona for a conference known as the 20 Top Alternative Medical Doctors in the country. All 20 of us met out there, presented our chapters in a book, came together very nicely. We presented to each other as to a layperson audience, and it went off very well. I made the promise then that I'm going to bring every one of those doctors to you so you can listen to their message, powerful as they were, and you have to admit, as this summer rolls along, each and every doc has such a powerful message that, well, it's just making my job so much easier. They're so interesting, and we're going to keep and being in keeping with that particular level of interest today. Dr. Nicholas Meyer. He's a biological dentist, practices in Scottsdale, Arizona. He has the unique distinction of being the dentist of Dr. Edward Condrat, and of course that probably explains why we are here today with him, and we're going to let him talk about biological dentistry and his contribution, of course, out there in the paradise for alternative medicine, Phoenix, Arizona, or Arizona in particular. Just wonderful freedom to practice however you choose to practice, and so it's no wonder that Nicholas Myers is a practicing doctor in that region. We're going to be talking to Nicholas right after that first break. If you want to speak to Dr. Myers at all during the conversation that he brings to you today, give us a call at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I'll give that number additionally throughout the hour. So here we are, smack dab in the middle of July. On Wednesday, we're going to take, won't be the whole show because he says, well, we really can't do the whole show, but I've been tracking the whereabouts of Dr. Edward Condrat and his lovely wife, Lee, who are taking a little caminata. Of course, that means a walk. It's a 500-mile walk, started right at the border of France and Spain. It's now traversed across the entire northern area of Spain on his way to the Cathedral at Santiago de Compostela, the burial place of St. James. Very, very religious experience. We've been checking in with him occasionally, but as I find out in talking to him the other day, the thing ends not tomorrow, on Thursday. So I look at his day 28, which was yesterday. He is in a town called Sarria, and he's going to Puerto Marin, and it says then 56 miles to go after 500 miles on the journey that he set out to start. He had 56 miles to go as of yesterday. The day's posted for July 14th is not in yet. We're going to get with him on Wednesday. As I think we've calculated, it will be the last day before he arrives. Just happens to hit on a Wednesday. If we'd hit the last day, we'd be able to talk to him on the last day. But we'll have a couple of other interesting things for you on Wednesday. Then on Friday, we're going to be back with Barisha. We've launched it. We brought it to you, a unique company. You'll be learning more and more about this unique set of product lines. If you are a diabetic, a pre-diabetic, if you're just predisposed to gaining weight, the information that we're going to have for you on how you can deal with that is going to surround the interesting product line of the Barisha line 7 to 7 program. And this particular Friday, one of the representatives of the company, Joe Giuliano, will be my guest. So that's Friday. Then, as the rest of the month shapes up, Dr. Lee Cowden is going to be returning back with us on the 23rd. He was here once before to talk about the emotional connection between serious diseases and emotional states. He's now back to talk about really what his topic was all about in Phoenix. He gave a complete one-hour presentation on cancer treatment. He asked to come back to be able to give that same, well, not maybe word-for-word lecture, but at least cover the same material. So we're going to be talking to Dr. Lee Cowden on the 23rd about detoxification and cancer. Then we'll be quickly turning the page into August. I got to tell you, of course, Susan Smith-Jones, who was on her way to the Scandinavian countries when last we heard from her, will be back, and she'll be on our show on the 6th of August. On the 4th of August, of course, we're going to have Susie Weiss, because that'll be first Thursday thing. Susie Weiss talking about essential oils. And just inked him the other day. This man, one of the most brilliant doctors I've ever come across. His name is Dr. Jerry Tennant. You're going to be hearing a lot about Dr. Kent Tennant and how he approaches the treatment of disease. It is uncanny and unnerving how he has created this way of explaining disease and how to correct it. And his story for why he had to do it, well, it'll hit you right in the gut. Dr. Jerry Tennant going to be our guest here on the 11th of August, and that's pretty much tracked out as far into the future as I can give it to you as it stands right now. So, other things. We have in 1 week from today the July Eye program. This is probably the final day. If you think, and I know there were a couple late entrants last week, if you think you'd like to be a part of the treatment program we're holding here in my office on the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd, please give us a call here at the office, 724-942-3002. You want to talk to the beguiling Sarah, who will make sure she guides you into the safe port that begins next Monday, probably the last day, today and tomorrow, to get those records off to Ed. Yes, even though he's in Spain, his computer receives all of our faxes directly, and he's able to program machines, his microcurrent machines, from that distance. Go figure. The marvels of modern medicine and electronics. Anyway, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, for those who particularly are afflicted with either macular degeneration, glaucoma, or diabetic retinopathy, these three retinal disorders have a correction. They have a fix. You can restore your vision, and you've heard me talk about enough with the wonderful 3-day treatment program. That's the start that has been devised by Ed Condren. I hope that many of you take me up on it. This past weekend, spent a day up there near Newcastle at something called the SNPJ. It's a Slovenian ethnic event that occurs each and every year. I spent Saturday there. I just want to extend my thanks to how well I was treated out there by all involved. There were polka bands going on simultaneously at 4 different corners of that venue. And, of course, the barbecued lamb that I went for, I enjoyed it immensely, and we'll let it go at that. Okay. I think we can take a short break right now. And in the wings, I thank my good friend, Dr. Nicholas Myers, top doc, biological dentist from Scottsdale, Arizona. We're going to be talking to Dr. Myers about his viewpoint on biological dentistry, give you some tips, as we always do, about how best to identify your dentist and what is unique about his practice. But I want to tell you, you're going to be amazed about what this man can do. Be right back in a moment with Dr. Nicholas Meyer.
We offer metabolic.
Okay, he just called. Give me a couple seconds here to hook it up.
Okay.
Therapy. Chelation.
Hey, Nick.
Hello, sir.
You back from vacation. Your girls have protected you well while you're gone. I want you to know that.
Oh, great. I'm happy to hear that.
They concealed the true reason for why you couldn't answer the phone. But I pried it out of them. I absolutely got it out of them. And I understand you just returned maybe on Friday, huh?
Friday evening, yep. It was wonderful.
Well, where'd you go?
We were up in northern Idaho to Sandpoint, and I met the man that developed the Bird respirators, Dr. Bird.
I know the name. I don't know about the man. You got to share that with me.
Yeah, I can, yeah.
All right, hey, look. We're on a bit of a break. I'm just looking at the chapter. We're going to talk about you and your epiphany. Every one of us has had one. It looks like you must have had your own. And then just taking some passages, talking about biological dentistry and in its generalities. That thing about changing the autonomic nervous system in 30 seconds, I got to ask you about that, okay?
Okay.
That'll set the groundwork, and then root canals and anything else that you want to get into before the hour's up. Fair enough?
All right, fair enough.
Rest easy. We'll be with you in just a moment.
Okay.
Here we go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. We're here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on a Monday morning version of the show, and we are in Top Doc summer mode, as you know by now. I am attempting, and I will accomplish my objective of getting those 20 top doctors ultimately here on the radio show to bring the message to you as they brought it to us out there in Phoenix, Arizona not too long ago. A book has emerged from it. Each and every one of us, top 20, wrote a chapter in that book. Today, we're with one of the 20 top docs, a dentist, a biological dentist, practices in Scottsdale, Arizona. A unique distinction for this gentleman. He is the personal and private dentist of one Dr. Edward Condrat, and I think the rest of the story gets told from that point. Man is an expert in his own right, and we're going to be talking about the subject of biological dentistry today with Dr. Nicholas J. Myers. Dr. Myers, thanks for coming aboard, just returning from vacation as you have. Are you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as you begin? You're back to work today, first day.
You betcha. I was up at 4:30 here this morning, just raring to go.
I have to apologize for that. I know people don't get up at 4:30, even out in Phoenix, Arizona, but thanks for allowing me to invade your morning, Dr. Meyer. Over the course of a few months, we've become close friends. It all started with this whole Top Doc project and the fact that we met out there a little over a month ago. You have made the Top Doc list, and certainly from a dental viewpoint, you are one of a kind. Biological dentistry is alive, well, and kicking out there in the Phoenix, Arizona area. You and Dr. Margoli seem to be pretty good representatives of what we would hope to be able to accomplish countrywide. But let my listeners gain from your knowledge today. Dr. Myers, we always like to start out by having our guests tell us a bit about themselves. I think it's safe to say that every one of us started out in a conventional sense, and then something happened, or a group of things happened. I call it the epiphany, and from that point on, we're just marching to the beat of a different drummer. What was your epiphany, and what drum are you marching to nowadays?
Well, you're right, Doc. My epiphany happened when I was a much younger doctor in Neoga, Illinois. I was a small town doctor. At the time, I had 1,700 people in it. In central Illinois, I was practicing the best dentistry I knew how coming out of dental school in those early years. By the way, I've been in practice 35 years now. And
your youthful look does not give that away, Doctor. I can tell you that.
Thank you. But anyway, I had the occasion to have to accept the resignation of my receptionist at the office, and found out why. She was recently diagnosed with MS.
Ah.
Well, she then set it upon herself to find out what's wrong with her health. found her way out to the Nevada clinic, Dr. Fuller Royal. She came back from that visit asking me to remove her mercury fillings in a particular way, a particular manner, and she brought a very thick packet of information from her that referenced a lot of dentistry items written from a German viewpoint about German, thank God, but it was all German technology, German information, German knowledge base. And it talked about things like teeth being organs. That was an epiphany for me.
It was a new concept.
Yeah, so it was quite a new concept. So that word right there by itself was just a whole new way of even thinking that a tooth is actually would be considered an organ of the body. That was the first thing. The second thing about that experience was the sequential removal that was determined by a doctor of some unknown type in my little world at that time, that I should remove these fillings in this particular order or sequence.
From the most negative to the most positive, have a ring to it to you, doctor.
Yes, it does. She came out with a list of what that was. So then it also instructed me what kind of dental materials to replace the restorations that I had just removed or were in the process of removing to go back into her teeth. And also as part of that packet of information was a linkage, which I completely did not understand for years, was the connectedness of teeth and the energy system of the body, which was sat on a shelf and percolated for years before it started to make sense. But in retrospect, I can speak now that this was the energetic relationship charts, the acupuncture charts or relationships of teeth to various body parts.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Meyer. That woman, your receptionist, ill as she was, who brought back that packet of information, I don't know whether you were the dentist that put some of those fillings in. By the way, were you?
No, I was not.
Okay, you weren't. But you certainly had used your share of amalgam by that time with a number of those 1,700 people that lived in your town. How did you accept the fact that your profession, as you had learned it and as it had been taught, actually could potentially play a role in somebody's serious disease? That's sort of a blow to the gut, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I've always had kind of this inquiring mind and I want to know attitude about so many things in life, and so this area of dentistry was for me in a very early nascent stage of, yes, I've learned all these, at that point about my 5th year out of dental school. No, let me rephrase that, think back. That was about my 3rd or 4th year out of dental school. And it was right around that time I also had come out here to Phoenix here for a seminar many years back. And the person in the seminar was leading it said, maybe mercury fillings aren't such a great idea. Well, that kind of lodged in a soft spot in my brain, and it took hold. So then when I got this lady coming in, and I had this idea that maybe mercury wasn't a good idea, and I'm seeing all this starting to have some early evidence appear to me that maybe what I'm doing isn't the best thing. So that started my road away from more of the traditional types of things, particularly regarding the aspect of mercury use in the mouth as a restorative material. And it really mushroomed from there. I had gotten involved with orthodontics and temporomandibular joint dysfunction, EMJ, and that then added a completely another new layer of information onto my little brain, which when I got into treatment of chronic pain, acupuncture then started to revisit me, because people in chronic pain often will go to acupuncturists, and certainly wasn't as popular or available back 30-some years ago compared to where it is today, especially here in Phoenix. It's acupuncturists almost every corner. So it was at that time in that fertile ground, it took hold, and it just started one part of a book, if you will, after another, layering new and different information. And then as I just got old enough, I started to see my gosh, these kind of conditions that I'm dealing with in dentistry are the same conditions that in the medical world they would just simply be giving drugs for. And there are some things that I can do in a helpful way with people that don't have to be drug oriented in the conventional medical sense. And as I started to put two and two together and coming up with six, the practice that I evolved into today is what has come out of all those different additions of new information and new knowledge, and really driving into a helpful practice of dentistry. And I also had a background in nutrition. Nutrition started with my professor in dental school, which was Dr. Gustav Rapp. He was a colleague of Emmanuel Sharaskin at the time, and so he was a big vitamin C proponent, and we did oral vitamin C testing, and really got into a different look at nutrition compared to, I guess, what would be considered my medical school colleague.
Now
it's always been around the back part of my mind, being flavored with periodontal disease now.
Well, it just appears, 30 years ago, because you say you've been practicing 30 years, and you 35. You began your epiphany 3 years outside of school. So at that point, there really wasn't much formal education. You literally saw the books being written, maybe helped write the books over these 30 years to evolve to where today there are places that dentists that have an interest can actually go and learn these things. You're probably the guys that began to put together the protocols that the doctors of today actually benefit from. Your journey, your epiphany has led to where others maybe can travel with not too bumpy a road, because I'm going to guess the road was pretty bumpy along the way, was it not?
It was bumpy, and it was full of potholes and dead ends. It was, there was no internet back then, and the information that came was really through the post, the U.S. Post, and we got you got a card in the mail from an organization that didn't keep bombarding you. So it's the technology was kind of the spigot of the information of the day, and now for a doctor today looking for this information in a matter of 3 or 4 mouse clicks can be deluged with organizations that are in the area of biological dentistry and implant dentistry, laser dentistry. The things that were not even discussed way back in the day are now there's academies built up around a specific technology, CAD/CAM dentistry. So it's amazing, really truly amazing newness in the field of not only dentistry but healthcare in general, of the information that we have at our fingertips and literally in the palm of our hand with our smartphone.
You gave up the amalgam pretty early, I'm guessing, huh? And
yes.
And moved to the composites right away. And I don't know when the compatibility testing may have come in, but I'm going to guess that maybe that's a part of it now too. So that, but the giving up of the mercury amalgam as a because cleaning out that office and letting the public know that no more are we going to be using that material here, when the rest of your colleagues had never moved into that realm, caused you a lot of controversy, even within your own group of dentists, let alone the fact that you could move. And by the way, when did you move? I mean, there you were in Illinois, and now you're in Arizona. You realized at what point that Arizona was the paradise for freedoms when it comes to practicing. How did that come about?
That was around 1985. We came out here for some seminars, my wife and I, in our very early years, and then we made the decision somewhere in '86 to move to Arizona. It was quite a departure from our kind of a quiet life in central Illinois. We came out in 1988. I had to take some new board examinations and find patients to practice and apply my skill in front of a jury of my peers, so to speak. And then we moved out at the latter part of 1988 in November. So it's been a fun journey ever since.
Well, as it's evolved now, the practice, as you see it, what are the hallmarks? What are the findings? What are the things that my listeners can be instructed in to tip them off about, is their dentist how do you find a biological dentist? What is it that a biological dentist does that would make them so unique that you may want to seek out only their help, not the help of a regular dentist? How do they do that?
Well, that's a good question. And well, since we've been talking about mercury, let's start there. That's kind of the entree into, for most people, into biological dentistry as a dentist. Now, let me just clarify. We all go to grammar school. And when you went, there were 8 grades then. There was not a middle school separate from our grammar schools back in Chicago. So, just like we all go to grammar school, excuse me, there are grade levels, 1st through 8th grade. When you're in 1st grade, you can say, oh, I'm in grammar school. When you're in 8th grade, you can say, I'm in grammar school. So too with biological dentistry or holistic dentistry. You can say, I am a biological dentist, but you may be only, say, at a 1st grade kind of a level compared to, say, an 8th grade level. So that is our background. So I look at mercury and the topics around mercury as one of the first levels that somebody would get into. It's very obvious for people. It's very easy to see. And most of us, you're either for it or against it, but the thing is, you know of it. So as a doctor is on their journey, and for instance, what I do in my practice now, the thing that your listeners would want to know is do they have safe practices of mercury removal for them or the patient? Do they take high level of care in the safeguarding so that they're not going to get a high level of a mercury dump into the body from just not using such a simple procedure as rubber dam, alternative air source, oral rinse chelation products that can be applied to the tissues to help grab the mercury so the soft tissues are protected from that transit from the mouth into the system. Negative, and the room environment. How is the room environment protected for not only the doctor but the rest of the patients who are in the building and your suite, I should say. And then negative ion generators, HEPA vacuum, OSHA approved mercury respirator masks for the doctor and technician who are removing the material. So those are a good handful of the material things that I would suggest that you have available to ask your doctor to say, are you following these particular protocols in any way, shape, or form? That's one thing. The second thing we've alluded to already is the materials compatibility test. Certainly now this is a blood serum test that a doctor would order. The kits are free for the taking, basically, but there is a cost then for the test. So there's a blood draw is done, 2 vials of blood. They're overnighted to a laboratory in Colorado Springs, and within about 10 days you'll get a lengthy test result that has about 3,000 to 5,000 different dental materials.
Is that what there is now? 5,000?
Oh, it's incredible. It's just mind-blowing when you see these test results. Well, we talk about loosely, you're going to get a composite. Well, there are over 100 different composites on the market. And for instance, in some of the families from one manufacturer, you may have 5 different brothers and sister composites. They all have different chemical makeups within them. You may be compatible with one of the 5 or 2 of the 5. Your sibling that, say, is sitting in the next chair may be compatible to not the 2 that you're compatible to. So depending on your immune system and how say, harmed you are, the reactivity of your system, you will have a greater or lesser amount of materials available to you for use in the restoring of your teeth. So it's certainly a step in the right direction, but the compatibility test just ratchets up the wellness character, the wellness aspect a lot.
So you have the first grader says, I'm not using mercury anymore. That's not enough, because you've got to make certain that you have safeguards put in here to protect patients, not just the will to not want to. I think intuitively now most dentists are willing to remove these mercury fillings, and I have so many patients come and say, oh, my dentist removed them, or my dentist will remove them, and then I start asking some questions, and none of those safeguards are there. This is not the person, the well-intended dentist, yes, but they need to have the training and the equipment and the protections, or that dentist can really end up harming you and making you very ill. Wouldn't you say, Doc?
Yes, so you know the old jumping out of the frying pan into the fire comes to mind when you say those words, because the more ill an individual is, the more immune damaged they are. When you give a massive mercury dump into the body, all the organs of elimination are going to be stressed. Your kidneys are stressed, your gut's stressed, and if you already have some challenges health-wise, you can become much more bound up from a physical standpoint or from a psychological standpoint, and you can just have your whole world just get turned upside down, and now you got a whole other problem on top of everything. So it's important that you do lower dentistry sometimes, even as little as 1 or 2 filling replacements. And there are people who just do 1 filling. Their system is so fragile that it's incumbent upon the practitioner to take as absolute maximum care that somebody can have for them, and put the patient interest first, and not their interest just to get the fillings out of their mouth and move on to the next person. So it's important that they have that awareness, and then mention about this process. So adding to this for the wellness model of having a IV vitamin C or lipospheric vitamin C that you can give to the person during or after that, immediately after the process of the mercury removal, to help clean up some of the things which are going to be let loose within the system right away after the removal process. Everything is held in our bodies in a kind of an electrochemical balance, and when you release or upset that balance from the mouth with the different metallic fillings which are in the teeth, you really upset the balance that's in the system, and things are going to be moving around in the body, all the different metal ions that you have, because you're changing the electric field in the body. As they're moving around to get reestablished, that's your window of opportunity that you can help really give a boost to the process that you're wanting to have as a good outcome for the health of that individual.
All right, let's do this. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I think there are 2 other aspects that really have to be discussed when the biological dental issue comes up. One is this issue of root canals. I know you've got some pretty strong opinions about it. And the other is on the extracted tooth and this thing that's called a cavitation. Can we spend some moments on those when we return, Doc?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, we're with Top Doc, Dr. Nicholas Meyer, talking about biological dentistry and allowing you, the listener, to gain the access of the knowledge that you're going to need when selecting your own dentist. So we're going to take a short break. When we return, moving away from the mercury discussion, which is grade 1 and 2 and 3 maybe, we're going to move up to the 8th grade before we leave this show and talk about the other 2 remaining aspects. We'll be right back in a moment with Dr. Meyer. Hello, Rich. I saw that you left one. I haven't seen it yet. Are we in conflict tomorrow for some reason? All right, we'll do it maybe Thursday. Hold up. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KSB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today. Monday morning version of the show. We are in top doc summer mode, having a chance to meet with all the great 20 top alternative medical doctors and dentists who are involved with that project that we talked so much about there a few months ago. Dr. Nicholas Meyer is with us today, a biological dentist practicing in Scottsdale, Arizona. Dr. Meyer, are you still with us, my friend?
I am indeed.
Could you take a moment, because we were talking off air about maybe some information that my listeners could go to take this to another step. And if you could, please take your time to talk about your website or any other thing that you want to.
Sure. You asked that we talk about root canals and the topic of what are called cavitations or jawbone lesions or ischemic bone disease or non-suppurative osteomyelitis. Any of those have fit that particular malady. So let's talk about root canals for a short bit. There really isn't a really good root canal. A root canal is for listeners that don't really know, a root canal is a physical part of a tooth. Everybody who has teeth has root canals. The thing that we get lost in the translation, that root canal therapy, root canal treatment, or when you say I've had a root canal, means that you've had treatment to that space inside the tooth to remove the either partially alive, fully alive, or completely dead contents of that chamber within the tooth. That's called a root canal therapy. And so when we do that, when a doctor does a root canal for an individual, we're basically mummifying the tooth. Think back of the ancient pharaohs of Egypt, how we get mummies and being cut, etc. So we have found a way that we mummify a tooth. We put various chemicals in it. We have some modicum of success in being able to retain a tooth for longer periods of time to function in the mouth. Certainly this was a therapy and technique that was born out of a very good intention, was to help people have their teeth for a lifetime of better function. And without having that function, then they were dental cripples. Dental cripple could be missing just say one tooth or a mouthful of teeth, and that's just a matter then of severity of that cripplement. So within that whole area of root canal treatment, we have to look at what else is going on, not just the physicalness of having the tooth remaining in the jaw. A tooth is porous. So if you ever look at a tooth, the surface of a tooth under a magnifying glass, everybody can picture this. Think of a sponge, the surface of a sponge with a myriad of small little holes all over the surface of it. Well, in a tooth, each one of those little holes actually has a chamber that runs right into the nerve chamber of the tooth. So many are in a tooth. A small little lower front tooth, for instance, it's been measured and estimated the equivalent of 3.5 miles of tubules in one little tooth.
Never heard that before. Wow.
It's really amazing. And those tubules are the superhighways of a tooth. The bacteria that float around in our bodies, when they find a tooth that doesn't have a vitalness to it, and there's not life to the tooth, they can enter into the chamber, the canal space, that canal tubule space, up to say 4 abreast. That's a pretty wide space. As the oxygen tension within that environment changes from the bacteria, which are air breathing, and as they use up the oxygen that's in that space, they start to become anaerobic, or they live without air. When they make that conversion, they start having a product released from their metabolism we call an endotoxin. So think back when your mother or grandmother would say, now, if you see a can that's swollen in the grocery store or on your shelf, you don't want to eat the food that's been in the can because there's botulism. That's an example of an anaerobic process that occurred with that particular food. Well, a similar process is occurring in that area of the tooth with those microbes. And I'm not saying it's botulism, but it's a similar process. The toxins, though, that are coming off are dripping into your system in a very slow, methodical way. It's actually accelerated a little bit when you function and you're putting pressure onto the tooth. So you're kind of pumping that toxin away from the tooth and then into general body circulation. So that's one part of the root canal situation. The other is from an energy standpoint. We talked about energy and acupuncture. Well, a tooth that is not vital is like in the circuit of your house. The switch or the circuit breaker has been thrown. The current does not flow through that circuit anymore if the circuit breaker is popped. So a tooth is, in that regard, like a circuit breaker popping, and that's this part of the system, such that, unfortunately, we have it built-in backup systems, is that energy from other parts of the area can come around, say, through back doors, if you will, and be able to keep energy flowing, but there is a weakness in that part of the system. So some of your chi or prana or vital energy is diminished from that tooth area now to the rest of your body. So that's a significant part of the issue with root canals. So today in 2014, we even have to ask really the question, should root canals even be done if we've got good alternatives such as dental implants with titanium, and now we have zirconium oxide implants, which are non-metal, to be used to replace teeth that don't carry those same problems with them as that has a root canal. Now, just like that 1 through 8th grade grammar school example, so too with root canals there are. So if a tooth has had a vital root canal, where if it was say a child at 9 years of age has large front teeth relative to the rest of their face, they haven't just grown into their face, and they have a playground injury on the front of their tooth and smashes the tooth. Say it cleaves it off at an angle, very common type of a break. Well, now you have a vital tooth, never been infected. You can think to go and take that tooth. That's a clean environment that you're doing this, say, mummification process for. That tooth can stay longer, happier before it has a problem, compared to a tooth that's festered, it's got a pus pocket or an abscess at the root end of the tooth that's already leaking into the system. That's a different scenario, different situation, and so it's a completely different part of the spectrum. But eventually, that first example that I gave you, that will convert into a bad situation for the body.
Root canals, my question is, then a root canal, whether it's sooner or rather than later, is always, these big words in medicine, always and never, is always going to present a set of medical issues. There's never really a healthy root canal that can be done. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, you have to think of it in terms of my first example about mummification. So pretend you're going to a wake of a good friend and you see them laying out at the undertaker's funeral parlor. You say, boy, that's a healthy-looking corpse.
It's still a corpse.
You get the idea?
Yeah. There is no. Yeah. Okay. It's still dead.
It's still dead.
Oh, good answer. So then, you did mention something in your answer that I think my listeners should perk up the ears, because over time, we've gotten such better materials that there was the day when Hal started all this going, there was never an acceptable material that you could do an implant with. But today there is. Am I getting that? Is that a fair assessment of what you told me?
Yes, well, we think it's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good material, but 20 or 50 years from now, we may find something else, something that's different. But for where we are today, it seems to be an excellent alternative for the root canal treatments, and that's through dental implants. Dental implants are marvelous treatments, but again, you have to do the compatibility test. We've seen people that are not compatible to titanium. And so if they want to just roll with the punch on that one and do it, they know going into it that, yes, they want this particular treatment, and yes, it does carry a higher risk of immune system dysfunction. And if they're willing to accept that risk, then so be it. We can use that. But at least they're going in with eyes wide open. And it's not simply just a thought or a wish or a whim. We've actually measured it. So,
but if they've had compatibility testing, and the compatibility testing says that immunologically there's no problem with this material, then you'd give a green light to the use of whatever product that was, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then that's really fair. The fact that there is now an implantable material that you dentists are agreeing with can be placed and not have any health consequences. That's a major thing, because that's only evolved. How long has that been available? It's not been available all that long, has it?
No. I placed my first zirconium implant about 8 years ago. I'd started doing titanium implants in around 1991. So in fact, the first case that I did is still walking around the streets. She's in Los Angeles now in her 90s, and they're the best teeth in her mouth are the ones that are on the implant. Now, I was just about to say that I am still a dentist, and I still strongly believe, as a foundation, if there's one thing that's a foundation in practice, in my practice in dentistry, it's you have to have great function. If you don't have great function, you asked about the autonomic nervous system thing in 30 seconds.
Yeah, tell me about that.
You can't have that. You can't have great function without good, solid and sound teeth. So it's a very simple thing. If I could show you much easier, I think, than explain to you, but there is so much nervous innervation that runs through the muscles of the head and neck and through the temporomandibular joint with connections to the teeth that it's easy to have that out of balance in almost everybody. It's a question of how much are we getting off center. We see people walking down the street and they're crooked, but they're still walking. They're not straight necessarily, but the more crooked you are, and being a physician, you've seen this over the years, the people that have more straightness in their spine as they get older have fewer health problems. The autonomic nervous system can be so influenced so rapidly, and to me it's miraculous how fast it happens, but it does. You can take a pencil, a number 2 lead pencil, and place it over your lower bicuspid teeth, for instance, and just bite your teeth gently up together, hold that position, and I can demonstrate to you without a shadow of a doubt that will have enhanced your autonomic nervous system. Now, can you walk around all day with a pencil in your mouth? No, absolutely not. But it's a way to show that the imbalance that's in the system can be altered that rapidly, and your body responds that rapidly. But for crying out loud, we're energy beings. Our speed of light, speed of light is 186,000 miles a second or something. So we are energy beings, but whatever we do at one spot, it's happening. And our lasers, when we use those, we're treating with quantum physics. We're treating a light being with the speed of light, substance, light. So we're able to affect, even with lasers, the autonomic nervous system, if you know where to apply it and make the changes.
And you can do that.
Fascinating science.
Absolutely. We're coming into that home stretch. I don't want to allow us to abruptly find that the time has expired. Our listeners, I'm getting comfortable with you. And is there a place you can send them to learn more about? I understand you're writing a book. You got to tell us about it so our listeners can be prepared to get that book. Where do we get more information about Dr. Meyer?
Yes, we have I have a very complete and thorough website. It's Mill Dental. My practice name is Millennium Dental. We shorten that for ease of writing. Mill Dental, MILLDENTAL.com. The email is Dr. Meyer, DRMYER, at milldental.com. And the working title of the book in process is Handbook of Holistic Dentistry, A New Path to Wellness. And for the listeners, if they'd like to write in and request, we'll be giving give a free chapter out of the book to them, and an opportunity when the book is completed in a few months that they can see to it about acquiring the rest of the book if they wish to.
Perfect. Milldental.com, folks.
Correct.
And there's all sorts of goodies awaiting you there, but this they can get at least a chapter of the book, titillate them a bit. And you say the thing is coming out in a few months. Did you know that whenever you presented at the Top Doc, or did you do that because you presented at the Top Doc?
I did it because I presented at the Top Doc.
Yeah, I got the same little urge. I know what you're talking about, Nick. Absolutely.
So I did end up going ahead and committing and committed to have it out by the end of the year.
Outstanding. Now we do have about 4 or 5 minutes left to go, and I want and as you've mentioned the 3 or 4 things I had never heard before. I've already jotted them down about the 3 miles worth of holes. I mean, come on, that was a new one on me. But as we come to that final point, how do you want to bring this to a conclusion today? I'm going to just turn the mic over to you and let you go.
Well, I guess I want to have people really bring home the idea that optimal dentistry is essential and crucial to your health and well-being. It's easy to start coming away from optimal, and yes, we can still function, we can still get along in life, but at what price? And as I talked to my dad yesterday, who's becoming hard of hearing, he says, the thing about it has been, I wish I could have done this sooner, but it just was something that crept in over time, and he didn't even know he was having a problem until it got so bad that the problem surfaced, and now he's been fitted for trial hearing aids. He says, oh my gosh, I can hear again. Hmm. So it's some of those things, we see those health epiphanies when we do our bite treatments with people, and oh my gosh, within a week's time, we can often have somebody that suffered a certain set of symptoms for years and years and years with a properly positioned precision orthotic, rebalance their bite, balance their autonomic nervous system, and we just let God take over, and their body starts to come right, and their symptoms just drop off like Hansel and Gretel dropping the breadcrumbs in the forest. They just leave them behind and never to return to them again unless they get back out of balance. So that's been probably the most rewarding thing I've seen over the years. And for me, most impressionable young guy back then, I started doing this 30 years ago, was that's the most predictable, consistent thing I've seen over 30 years, is that when we balance somebody's bite, almost everybody has demonstrable improvement within a week's time without drugs and without surgery. So it's a phenomenon that is essential to well-being. And the flip side of that, which came around in the last, I would say, 10 years, and basically is the tying together of our airway problems, our sleep apnea issues, and sleep breathing disorders that are part and parcel of the same system. So the dentist really is the best person most often to treat somebody with sleep apnea treatment or snoring disorders, that they can be fitted with custom devices that can manipulate and alter jaw position and tongue position pretty amazingly and effective. And you can put these devices in your pocket compared to having to take a CPAP with you when you go on a hunting trip and there's no place to plug it in.
That bite, that occlusion is so doggone important. You're one of the first of the dentists I've ever found to move in that direction. A lot of people want to talk about the mercury and the root canals and the like, but having that occlusive, that bite that is just such a solid, rock solid base is the key, and that's what I'm identifying you as doing really different than most. I don't hear other people talking about that. My hat's off to you, Dr. Meyer. We are right here at the tail end of our discussion today. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope our paths are absolutely going to cross again. I like the fact that you've taken them up on their challenge, and that book is coming out in the very near future. I'm going to send for a copy of it, I can tell you that. I want to wish you best of luck in the near future and best of luck in the distant future. We'll be seeing each other soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, have a great day.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Top Doc Nicholas Meyer. You've just heard another one, and I'll be doggone if he didn't come across with big punchlines today. I'll repeat them for you on Wednesday. Till then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney, and for Dr. Nicholas Meyer saying so long for AIM Impact on Your Health.